Case File TR 7128. The first anomaly was not the voice in the barn. It was the attendance sheet found nailed to the silo, listing 3 children who would not be born for another 9 years. The registry received the file from Deputy Mara Voss of Bellwether County after she used the phrase, "The building knew my mother," in an incident report that otherwise described trespassing, vandalism, and a storm-damaged structure. The phrase was struck through in pen, then rewritten in the margin 5 times, each time in smaller letters. The property sat beyond County Road 6, where the asphalt gave up and the cornfields pressed close enough to scrape both sides of a patrol car. Locals called it the Harker Dairy, though no Harker had owned cattle there since 1978. By 2026, the farmhouse was a foundation full of sumac. The barn remained upright, red boards gone black at the seams, roof bowed as if something enormous had settled beneath it and was waiting for the timber to finish breaking. On September 3rd, 3 teenagers entered the barn at sunset to record a dare. Their video survived. Their voices did not. The footage begins with laughter and phone light, dust moving like insects through the beam. A boy named Caleb points the camera toward the hayloft and says there is nothing here but raccoon trash. Then a bell rings. There was no bell on the property. The old school bell had been removed from the nearby chapel in 1962. Still, the recording captures one clear iron note, and after it, a woman's voice from the dark loft. Caleb Wren. The boy laughs once. The sound cuts off as if swallowed. The voice repeats his full name, this time with a patience that makes the other teenagers stop moving. Caleb says, "Present." At that exact moment, every photograph of Caleb Wren stored on his family's phones blurred at the face. His mother later told investigators she felt a cold spot cross the kitchen and looked up to see the refrigerator magnet holding his kindergarten portrait fall to the floor. In the portrait, the body remained. The face had become a pale smear. In the barn video, Caleb turns the phone toward himself. For 2 frames, he appears normal. Then his face goes soft, not melting, not rotting, but losing its agreement with bone. His features slide into the mild blankness of wet clay. He drops the camera. His friends scream. The woman's voice calls the next name. Tessa Lynn. Tessa does not answer. She runs. The camera catches only shoes, dust, the white X of old braces in the doorframe. Behind them, the voice calls names faster. Tessa Lynn, Jordan Abel, Mara Voss, Eleanor Wren, Ruth Bellwether. Names of people in the barn, people outside it, people buried across town. And finally, names no one recognized. When Deputy Voss arrived, Caleb stood in the center aisle, with no face and no pulse, yet still breathing. He had both hands raised like a child waiting to be counted. The registry's first field team entered at 1914. They found the attendance sheet on the silo. It was a single page of yellow school paper, dry despite rain. At the top, In careful cursive was written, "Class begins when the bell remembers you." There were 112 names. 37 belonged to living residents of Bellwether. 29 belonged to the dead. 16 had no public record. 3 were later confirmed as children born years after the event. The remaining names were familiar only to the barn. The first containment protocol was simple. No one was to answer. No one was to speak a name inside the structure. The team wore ear protection and used hand signals. This lasted 11 minutes. At 19:25, Agent Pell removed his headset and asked why the cows were crying. There were no animals on site, but the audio record captures lowing from below the floorboards. Hundreds of cattle packed somewhere beneath earth, their bodies shifting against beams that had never supported a basement. Agent Pell walked to the first stall and looked down between 2 boards. He began to weep. He said his father's name. Then he said, "Present." His personnel file now contains no childhood. Every reference to parents, birthplace, and education has been replaced by blank fields. His body survived, but he answers to any name spoken near him and cannot recognize mirrors as reflective surfaces. He believes every mirror is a window into a classroom where he is late. Evidence item C is a photograph taken by drone at 20:02. From above, the barn roof forms a mouth. This was not visible from ground level. The sagging central beam created the upper lip. The open hayloft made the throat. In the dirt outside the doors, something had dragged lines into the shape of desks. At 20:17, the barn began calling, "Roll," in the voice of Deputy Voss's deceased mother, Mara Ann Voss. Deputy Voss did not answer. She had been warned. She gripped the steering wheel of her cruiser until her palms bled and repeated her badge number instead of her name. The voice continued. It recited her childhood address, the color of her first bicycle, the sentence she said to her mother the night before the funeral and had never repeated to anyone. Then it called a name no one knew. Lily Mara Voss. Deputy Voss had no children. She was not pregnant. She would not meet the child's father for another 4 years. The barn called the name again, and in the deputy's dash camera reflection, a girl about 7 years old appeared in the back seat. She wore a yellow raincoat. Her hair was wet. She pressed both hands to the divider cage and whispered, "Mom, don't let it mark me absent." The image lasted 9 seconds. Deputy Voss never turned around. She said nothing. The apparition vanished, leaving 2 wet handprints on the plexiglass. The registry authorized controlled burn at 2140. Kerosene failed to ignite on contact with the boards. Thermite burned white and hot, cutting through hinges, nails, and the old milk stanchions. But the main posts remained cold. Finally, Agent Syack ordered everyone back and played a recording of the barn's own voice through a loudspeaker, reversed and slowed, until the names became a long animal groan. For the first time, the barn answered itself. Every board snapped inward. The roof folded. The doors slammed open and shut, like lungs trying to breathe without a body. From beneath the floor came the sound of children reciting, "Present, present, present." not in fear, but in discipline. At dawn, the barn was gone. In its place stood a one-room schoolhouse, white paint fresh, bells shining in a cupola that had never been built. On the teacher's desk lay a new attendance sheet. At the top was Deputy Voss's name. Beneath it, in a child's handwriting, was written, "Excused for now." The site remains under registry watch. No structure is visible on satellite imagery, though local drivers report a red barn at dusk if they take County Road 6 while thinking about someone they failed to protect. The rule is unchanged. If you hear your name from inside, do not answer. If it calls the name of someone you love, do not correct it. If it calls the name of a child who has not been born yet, leave the county before sunrise. The barn does not want your body first. It wants the record to show you attended